These are trying times for us with this global pandemic and shutdown. But once this is over, it will be time to rebuild. And one way we can rebuild our community is to rebuild our Toastmaster community. I'm Dupree, one of the creators of the Lightworkers Toastmasters, a club that before this shutdown, in under 2 years of even the conception, became the second biggest club in District 2, a community club, mind you. And not only that, it was growing to the point where we're even thinking of splitting the club because of the growing membership. When people ask me what makes this club special, I'm always brought back to one thing: compassion. Compassion creates good clubs. And as we rebuild District 2, when this is over, I'm going to talk to you, the leaders, of taking my experience as a Lightworker Toastmaster to how to utilize compassion to create amazing Toastmaster clubs through compassion of self, to compassion in your message to attract, and in compassion to your club members and leadership. The first thing I like to talk about is, of course, self-compassion. When I went to create the Lightworker Toastmasters, that was an idea that was bigger than me. It scared the heck out of me to think that I could create a community club from literally nothing. Just an idea. I didn't have 5 to 10 people who were with me. This was an idea of I wanted to create a club for people who primarily want to make a difference in this world. And it was a daunting thought. And I had to have a lot of compassion with myself. And just like anyone who wants to create something, I wanted it to be over quickly. I wanted to advertise, have one meeting, 20 people join, bing, bang, boom, we charter. And of course, that didn't happen. During that first meeting, I was nervous, I was scared, I was just kind of petrified. We had a really good turnout. About 17 people showed up. New, exciting people showed up for Toastmasters. And 4 people signed up, and 3 of them actually submitted checks. That 4th person never showed up again. I was kind of devastated, even though it was primarily successful, but at the same time, I wanted so much more for me. I wanted so much more now. But it was the ability to both treat myself with compassion that allowed me to go through with it. But the most important part of treating myself with compassion was to not take everything on my own. If you are going to use your leadership committee, make sure your committee at least has 2 people if you're trying to rebuild your club. I was lucky enough to have Donna Stolz, who primarily had different skill sets than me. I'm a more raw, exciting person, get people out there, get people excited, cheerleader type leader. Donna's the type leader who has a lot of heart, compassion, and mentorship, but she's more a background type person, at least at the time. But she's very good at crossing the T's and dotting the I's and all the paperwork, and I'm terrible at that, and that would have made it even much more stressful for me. And then allowing that compassion to myself to delegate that. Another aspect of compassion is one I actually didn't plan, but when I see, it gave a lot of compassion to me, which is utilizing the talent that is within District 2. If you are somebody who wants to rebuild a club or create a new club, there are a lot of members out there, such as myself, who are more than happy to help you. During that time, I made sure that each of the first 10, I believe actually 12 meetings, all had guest speakers. Speakers who weren't me. And to be honest, I mostly did it because I just didn't want to speak every week because I had to talk to people. I didn't want to have to prepare a speech, run this meeting, do an evaluation, and make the sales pitch. That just took way too much energy. But inviting the other people into did something else. Not only did it bring their voices on why people should join Toastmasters, each one of them would always say something encouraging and loving to me. And I didn't realize until I chartered how much I needed that. I needed the Krista Loves, the Omar Rivases, the Jim Sultans, the Todd Cuttlebacks, the Anna Margolinas, the Sandy Malones, and all the other people who came in as guests to give me that love and support so that I can continue to push forward. A lot of times we want to take everything on our own. And through compassion and love, it is accepting help. And that allowed me to continually push through and be able to take on this daunting task. So make sure you treat yourself with compassion. It might not be as fast as you want it to be, but that's okay. As long as you continue to push forward and continue to build up your club, but also delegate. Treat yourself with enough compassion so that you don't want to do everything yourself. And also make sure you have some people to help cheer you on so you feel that love and compassion as you move forward. And one thing I think that's changed and put Lightworkers Toastmasters into success is compassion in the marketing message, which is the second thing I want to talk about. Compassion in bringing people in. I believe one problem we have with Toastmasters, especially if you look at what Toastmasters provides us, is a lot of it's very professional and very technical of what Toastmasters provides, which is helpful because that puts a framework on what Toastmasters is. But when it comes to marketing and really getting people in there, not only do you have to touch their mind, you have to touch their hearts. You have to tell them what emotional benefits they gain through Toastmasters. And you have to utilize the compassion, the love, the empathy in your marketing messages. It's not just remove fear of public speaking. And when you think about the club that you joined or how you got pushed into Toastmasters, that first thing they got you to step into your first club. Unless it was an employer saying you need to join Toastmasters or you're fired. I've met a few people who are like that. But most people, such as even myself, the first way to step in was an encouragement from someone else and a reason beyond just getting rid of the fear of public speaking. Because honestly speaking, you can live an entire life with that fear. But it's the other things that Toastmasters provides that's important to put it out there. Because you'll get a family, a community, support. Talk about how much fun Toastmasters is. Talk about all the wonderful aspects of Toastmasters that is beyond just speaking. Beyond the core incompetencies from Pathways, which is amazing. But that talks to the mind. You got to remember, you need to also talk to the heart. And Lightworker Toastmasters, almost all my marketing material was focused on the heart because Toastmasters provides plenty for the mind. I made sure to give out all the mind stuff in the packet that talked about all the benefits and all the wonderful things you will get and all the skills. Those are great. But you also want to talk to the heart. And I do feel that the Talk to the Heart did a good job of getting an average, since we started, of 14 people per meeting, which includes the meetings before it was an actual club. I'm not saying average, scratch that. A minimum of 14. That was our low point, was 14 people in a meeting. And a lot of that was heart, not only for myself, for when I also gave up part of the leadership and running of the club, which also is the third part and almost the most important part, which is compassion for your current members. If you're watching this, chances are you are one step above and a true leader of your club. And a lot of things when it comes to being a leader, we want things to look a certain way. We want people to act a certain way. And I know part of me did. But one of my biggest goals was to make sure that this club wasn't 100% my vision. Because I knew for it to survive, and for Toastmasters to survive, you need ownership of all the members. Everybody needs to feel like they're contributing. Everybody needs to feel part ownership of the club. And the way you do that is you bring compassion to your leadership. Compassion and give up control. And if someone doesn't do something the way you think it should look, to look within your heart and treat the situation with compassion, with love. Figure out if this is your deal or something that's actually dangerous to the club's survival. I'll be completely honest. There are a few aspects of the Lightworker Toastmasters that weren't my idea. Some of the things I was actually kind of against. But the club wanted it that way. And the other members did. And that's time for me to step back and see love and compassion. Because the more love and ownership you give each person in your club, instead of wanting to do everything yourself and wanting to push your agenda upon other people, the more they are willing to invite people to the club, the more they're willing to tell other people, the more they're willing to do the marketing for you. Especially the quiet ones. Because if you can get a quiet person to talk, because a lot of boisterous people are great. They're good, especially the ones who do talk and bring people in. But if you get one of the quiet, shy people and give them ownership of the club and they tell somebody that Toastmasters help them, chances are that person's going to visit because they're going to want what they got. And the only way to do that is to treat your fellow Toastmasters with compassion. And that, not just the leadership and ownership, but through all aspects, the timing with compassion. The Toastmaster rules. If we are too strict, we could push people away. So we want to look at our Toastmasters, even our rules and how we run the meeting with compassion. We don't want to constantly correct the first-time Toastmaster who's stepping up for the first time and everyone berate them that you need to do this first, you need to do this first, you need to do this first. Oh, you forgot to ask blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You gotta, if you really want to do that, you need to find a way to approach that with compassion, with love, and not in a way that blames them for doing it wrong, but more of, this is how we do it, and let's, not make that mistake and push forward. We need our evaluations. Evaluations is the perfect place to put in compassion and love, especially for the first time speakers, showering them with praise for their courage. And also showering them with ways that they can improve, just little bits. And as they're more and more experienced, putting on more and more things they can improve, especially talking about how they've improved along the way. The more you do this, the more other people in your club will treat others with compassion. And you'll be able to create such an amazing club full of love and heart, even if it is a more business setting, because it's not just about the mind, it's about the heart. So when this is over, to the point where we can go out and build our new clubs, because a lot of us were in old community homes, retirement community homes, and those people are most likely, like the Lightworker Toastmasters, are going to lose that space. And when you create and go to a new space, you need to pretty much create a whole new community. And some of us are part of clubs that are now defunct, and it's time to rebuild when this is over. So when you do that, make sure you treat yourself as a leader with compassion. Surround yourself with people who will treat you with compassion, so you can always have your energy and your battery recharged so you can continue to move forward. Make sure you market with compassion. It's not just about the benefits in the mind, it is also with the heart, to make sure that person steps into the door. And finally, treat your members with compassion and allow them to grow through love and empathy. And if you do all that, I'm quite sure that when this is over next year or the year after, District 2 is going to become President's Distinguished